Blerdlines, we are here reacting to the trailer for Dune Part 3. Now, that was a trailer.
I did not realize there was another way to use the music that he used, that they used in the first one, and it's still dope. It's still dope.
Still pretty epic. It's the only film I will spend money to see in IMAX this year.
Hell yeah.
The teaser didn't give you a lot other than that amazing score with the war chant and everything. And you hear it, like Josh pointed out, you hear it again here. Having read Dune Messiah, I can kind of see how he's connecting the first two films to this a little more closely than the events are in the books. But it does still seem like we're getting the same beats of the novel, even in the years gaps and showing Paul's utter victory. You know, that's no surprise. They basically told us that in the trailer. But then the returns of, you see the character played by Jason Momoa. It's called Hate, and so there's also this plot that's going on to strike at Paul. So lots of great story that's coming. And I've always said this, that when you find a visual artist that understands the source text as well as this, then you get a really good adaptation. You might not get everything from the books, but you get a solid representation of the author's vision of how they envision the world. Got me wanting to reread Dune Messiah, actually, which is, to be honest, my least favorite of the books, but it's still a good book. I enjoyed Dune, Children of Dune, and God Emperor of Dune, and I'm disappointed that we probably will never get a God Emperor of Dune, because I would love Denis V to be the one to do God Emperor of Dune.
We don't really get these like epic movies anymore. You know, it's pretty much him, Nolan, anyone else, like at a scale that feels the scale, you know? And I think that in the first two, he definitely delivered on that. And so we can see the vast world of what Dune is. And like you said, if you have an understanding of the source material and seeing it on screen, it's like pretty dope. But if you have no understanding, you've only just seen the movies, and I'll even put it in the TV show, you're now in this like pretty massive sci-fi / fantasy world that's bigger than pretty much anything you've ever seen or experienced. And I think they show that, you know, pretty much every time, and even in the trailer. Like nowadays with trailers, we're talking about how, like, you know, there's either showing too much of the movie or showing not whatever, but this is one of the times where like they actually know how to use the trailer for what it's actually supposed to mean. Like, just like Dee said, I want to go see this in IMAX. It's probably the only one I want to see. And like, that's literally what the whole point of the trailer is, to convince you to do that.
And I think just really one last thing that is beautiful about Dune in general is, yes, it's science fiction, but you don't get the same level of science fiction space iconography that you would in other stories. Dune is very quietly placed its narratives on a planet, even though there is this huge sprawling universe. Most of the story takes place on Arrakis, and a few, you know, there's some Seleucus Secundus scenes and some Caladan scenes, but most of it is on Arrakis. And really what Paul becomes is this philosophical expression of humanity and the sort of inner existential struggle that humans go through. On the one hand, he trades his humanity for this great power in order to save humanity. So there's this irony all bundled up in it. And how far does one go to become the thing that needs to be born in order to save all these others? So I like that theme is continuing on, and we see that. I love the line when she asks him, you know, how does it feel to be human like everybody else? You know, it's a good moment, because as he gets deeper into his story, you know, he does lose that sense of what it means to be humanity. You realize as a reader that there is a larger commentary of what really does define humanity. What are the things that human beings are indelibly defined to be? And then how do you translate that as our place and responsibility on a single planet or in the greater scope of a universe or galaxy.
This makes me want to go read the book more, because there is things I'm not gonna get, which D'Angelo has, to give context and nuance to what we're seeing, but from book to screen. And this is not a problem. This is a good problem to have. Because Dune left things out that I felt like the book could give me some more clarification on. Not necessarily needed to be seen on screen, but I needed, for my own understanding, to know this world, to know its characters, to know, understand what the author was trying to convey to us. When I watched Dune, which was a cool movie, but I just felt like I'm not getting everything that I need to feel satisfied. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because it forced me to go read the book. All this trailer does is just reinforces the notion to go read Dune Messiah and get that out the way. So either I come in with some context information, and I'm just going to, it's just me comparing, or I'm going to be excited to compare after I watch the movie. Like, all right, let me read. And then it'll help me visualize what I'm reading. All in all, it's just going to help me understand the whole world in general. And that's a good thing. Dune, from friends who've told me, who watched or read the book, they said Dune is very hard to translate to screen for obvious reasons if you read the book. And so far, I haven't circled back to those friends yet. But for the most part, I feel like I'm getting a satisfactory adaptation to quell my thirst after reading the book, where I'm like, all right, this is a fair adaptation. I'm cool with this. You can't get it right, because doing it is very hard. But at the same time, I'm okay with what I watched from DV.
I think with DV, the reason I said I would call his, having read the books and then seeing his adaptation, the definitive adaptation, is because, unlike many others, he understood what actually frustrated Frank Herbert about after the release of the first book, which was too many people read Paul Atreides as a hero in this story and not what he was trying to communicate, which is leaders of any kind, charismatic or otherwise, when you put your face and host in them, they become dangerous. And because they have that kind of power, and they possess that kind of power, and they determine where the world goes and how things are shaped. And so, going back to the Chani discussion, using her as a and then, because most people would say, oh, that's a deviation from the book. It is, but it's one that is used to capture the author's main theme, which is, while all of these other people are in jubilant elation of Muad'Dib's birth and the Lisan al-Gaib, this one is seeing him for what he is, which is, just like any other leader, he used the power apparatus that was afforded to him to seize control. Right? He leveraged his relationship with the Fremen. He leveraged his ability to use the voice and open up his third eye and all that stuff. He used all that, and it was tied in with his own survival. So again, it becomes this huge existential philosophical conversation, and you get those in DV's film without having some of those details that the book offers, in addition to all the other things. So while those little small things are not there, I think that we got the more thematic elements more in these films than we do in David Lynch's film and then the miniseries. Because I think in both of those films, Paul is more portrayed as a hero and as someone that, especially because you get that from the point of view of Chani, mostly because she spends the most time with him.
Yeah, what is it? The quote, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was great about it is that Paul is not depicted in his inner monologue as being corrupted. It's more of a conversation in his mind of, I know what I'm becoming. I know that I've done this horrible thing, but I looked at every possible pathway to put humanity back in the place where we're not complacent, where we're not decadent, where we're not on the path of self-annihilation, it's going to be something very painful. And the true path is the one he actually avoided, and the one that Leto takes on. But that's another story. That's a story for another time. So,
is it much more devious to understand you're going to be the villain and still go through it, or be ignorant and go through it and follow that path?
That's the philosophical question at the heart of Dune. That is the very philosophical question at the heart of Paul's character, and it carries over to Leto and God Emperor and Children in Dune and God Emperor Dune, because that is the question: is you do possess this power, you do possess this strength. Is it better to allow Pete to live and let live, and let the chips fall where they're made, or because you possess this great power and you can shape and reshape the world, do you do it?
And there's also the matter of predestination that sort of gets addressed, because Paul's whole purpose is to put humanity back on the golden path. They've strayed. But to Dee's previous point, using Shani as a means of sort of heightening the audience's ability to see Paul becoming basically the thing that he despised, the thing that he didn't want to become, and more or less a villain of sorts, I thought was a master stroke as far as DV's portrayal of Shani, his deviation in the story from the book and from all the other iterations in media. I think it does a great job of in hindsight, initially you're kind of like, oh, well, why would he do that? Man, that kind of makes Shani kind of, a jackass. No, it really doesn't. It actually uses her as the one voice of reason, the one the Black woman sees all. It uses her as the one person who sees what's happening and isn't clouded by by Paul's ascension, by Muad'Dib's ascension to more or less godhood. Using her as that lens for the audience does the thing that Frank Herbert wanted, which was to make sure that everybody understands the main premise of Paul's ascension is to question charismatic leaders. Just because you can do a thing doesn't follow that you should do the thing, even with a predestination paradox, like what he's got with what he sees in when he drinks the water of life and says, I see one path, and the one way is all this is basically galactic war.
We don't really get these like epic movies anymore. It's pretty much him, Nolan, anyone else, like at a scale that feels the scale, and I think that in the first two, he definitely delivered on that. And so we can see the vast world of what Dune is. At a time when like IMAX movies are like, half of your arm, you got to be very choosy about what you're going to watch and put your money down for. So once again, this is Blerdlines. Thanks for rocking with us. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. You know what it is. Peace.